Good evening. Welcome everyone to the Don Lemon Show, one of the few shows in independent media not funded by the government. What am I talking about? I'm going to tell you about that. But we are back in the studio. I have my old-timey microphone. Can you hear me? I sound like I'm a radio host from the 1950s. It works. People wonder if it works. So we're back in the studio because summer fun time, we believe, is pretty much over. And so I hope you guys like the studio. Some of you, let me know in the chat, some of you like me sitting at home from the comfort of my home, since you think it is more casual. And so if you like it, tell me and we'll figure it out. So by the way, I want to remind you, we have a new show that we're testing out at 10 a.m. Eastern time in the morning every single day. We want to sort of update you on what is going on, what happened overnight, what happened in the morning, especially on the morning shows, and what you're going to be talking about throughout the day. And then we'll do our live at 5 as well. So make sure you go check our Hot Topics show. It's called Hot Topics. Go check it out. It is up now on YouTube. Click on the link. Let us know. Tell me what you think. So we're going to dig into a lot of it, where I said we're the only ones, one of the few independent shows that's not funded by Russia. We're going to dig into it. But suffice it to say, a stunning DOJ indictment has revealed that some of the biggest names in news have been secretly collecting hundreds of thousands, well, probably, millions if you think about how much money they were being paid from the Kremlin, ostensibly to repeat pro-Russian talking points. We also have some breaking news to tell you about. It involves Liz and Dick Cheney, and so many more headlines to discuss with you. Fortunately, I have the perfect co-pilot with me to break it all down, and that is none other than Francesca Fiorentini. Francesca is a comedian, a political commentator, and the host of the wonderfully named Bituation Room podcast.
That's right.
Francesca, how are you doing? And does Wolf Blitzer know that you have that name, the Bituation Room?
I don't think so. There's also some not safe for YouTube moniker that I've given myself. That's something rhymes with Wolf Blitzer. I'll tell you off air. But yes, it's been fun. We have comedians on every single week, and also experts, activists, and it's ramping up. But we need to make fun of all of this because otherwise it's just way too serious. Plus, there's a lot of clowns in politics, so I think that's important.
Yeah, we do need some humor, right? We need a little humor. Here's what we're going to welcome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Trump's bizarre press conference, Russia's right-wing influencer plot, and then the breaking news, as I said, from the Cheney family. And then we have a debate preview for you, and Francesca and I are going to go through all of that. So first of all, Francesca, right off the bat, I need to ask you, are you now, or have you ever been subsidized by the Russian government?
Unless they are paying me $5 every month at a time via my Patreon, Bituation Room, patreon.com/Bituation Room, which would be the saddest headline if anyone ever found out that the Russian government was paying me $60 a year. No, not that I know of. And I'm not in the habit of scrutinizing last names. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go through and be like, that sounds Russian. But no, sadly, Don, that's why I, have a virtual background instead of real plants. That's, you'll know when I have the money, when all these plants are like, real and beautiful and perfect.
Yeah. So how do you like our digs? We're not here very often. We haven't been here since the spring and summer. Can you show them around, Andy? This is our.
I like it.
Studio.
You're lit beautifully, by the way.
You think
and
so?
There's depth, yes. And I feel like it's like a warehouse that maybe there's going to be like
Take
Michael
Francesca
Jackson's.
down and show the different camera angles so we can see it. But what were you saying, Francesca?
Oh, it seems like a music video is going to break out at some point.
So
I'm into it.
There you go. Look at that. We've got the beautiful bridges behind us, the Manhattan skyline. Isn't it fantastic?
I think it looks great.
Yeah. Anyways, we should use it more often. It's just
so, obviously, you're putting your Russian money to use.
All the money I have comes from Africa. How about that?
The whole continent.
The whole continent, it comes from Africa. So anyway, just kidding. So it's a bizarre story. We're going to dig into that DOJ indictment. But first, I want to talk about Trump, okay? So to set the table, Francesca, let me first provide some context to what's going on. This morning, the former president, Donald Trump, attended court in New York to appeal the 2023 verdict that found him liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll, who alleged that Trump sexually assaulted her in a department store dressing room back in the 1990s. Now, following the in-court proceedings, Trump delivered a nearly hour-long rant to reporters from Trump Tower here in Manhattan. He's repeating accusations against Carroll that have been ruled defamatory by the court. I'm sure her lawyers were paying close attention to that. Now, before we actually watch some of the press conference, I just want to play a bit. This is MSNBC's breakdown of what happened in court this morning. Here it is.
So, Anna, it was an incredibly quick argument this morning. Both sides were assigned 10 minutes, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit hewed very closely to that, starting their oral argument at 10 a.m. sharp and finishing with just 10 minutes for each side. The questions were extraordinarily skeptical of the former president's appeals, specifically whether the evidence that he was contesting the admission of at the first of the E. Jean Carroll trials was in fact inappropriately admitted, and even if it was, would that have changed the outcome of the case? And I want to focus you and our viewers on the three pieces of evidence that former President Trump is really focused on. They are from two witnesses who each allege that they themselves had been sexually assaulted by former President Trump. Jessica Leeds, who alleges an assault on an airplane in the 1970s. Natasha Stoynoff, who was then a writer for People magazine, who alleges an assault by former President Trump at Mar-a-Lago in the mid-1990s. And then, of course, the Access Hollywood tape, which was played at the first Carroll trial. Now, today, Robbie Kaplan, who is E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, said you could lose both Stoynoff and Leeds' testimony from the case, and it would still be harmless error for Judge Kaplan to have admitted it. Why? Because the Access Hollywood tape should be appropriately understood as a confession by former President Trump when he said, I just go up to them, I kiss them, I grab them by the, excuse my language on national television, pussy. She said that's a confession, even though it's not a confession to a particular instance, that the jury could appropriately understand that as him admitting it, and that when she asked him about it at his deposition, he doubled down on it. That, she says, makes the jury's verdict bulletproof.
Got it.
And I understand.
Okay. So thank you. So I think it's important that she made the point. I thought that Lisa Rubin, Francesca, raised a phenomenal point there. The Access Hollywood tape should be considered a confession by Trump regarding all these sexual assaults. He openly bragged about preying upon women. That should be critical evidence in all of these cases, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what the jury took into consideration, was that this is someone who has, when he thinks no one is listening or watching, saying that this is what he does, and he does it regularly. This entire appeal is wild to me. The guy can't take the L when he actually L's back in 2020, and he can't take the W. We all know that today, Juan Merchan, in the falsification of business documents case that he was found guilty of, delayed the sentencing, which is a massive win for Donald Trump. Delayed it until after the election, which is just so dangerous and perilous for our so-called greatest democracy on earth. But I'm just like, why is he reopening this? Number one, why is he reminding us himself, coming out of his mouth, about exactly what happened, and then defaming E. Jean Carroll all over again, which is what landed him in this in the first place? Remember, there have been now two processes around this, and he's lost both of them. So this is my thing, is like, why are you distracting us with other crimes that you've done? Just take the win that you're not being sentenced in the business records case. Just take that and just ride out on that and say you've been vindicated.
Well, Francesca, it's odd to me because I did not even know he was in court today until he held that press conference. He's drawing more attention to it than if he had just not said anything, and then if he had gone on to his own Truth Social, whatever he calls it, Truth Social, he can't say it. If he had just gone on to Truth Social and tweeted it or truthed it or whatever to his MAGA supporters, of course they're going to believe everything he says, and it would not have gotten as much attention. But his bizarre behavior is what's drawing all the attention. I got to tell you, I think he's effing crazy. I think he's losing it. I think the possibility of losing to a woman is killing him, then losing to a black woman, and then he's got all these court cases on top of it. Okay, so I want to play a couple of minutes of what went down, of Trump's temper tantrum press conference from this afternoon. And I have to warn you, audience, just about everything Trump says here is extremely offensive, extremely false, and defamatory, or a combination of the two, okay? Watch.
There were two witnesses. One is a woman who's followed me for years. She said in 1979, I was in an airplane with her, commercial flight, and we became very intimate. I just sat down. I think I had the book, The Art of the Deal. I was famous then, too. I've been famous for a long time. And we're sitting in first class, according to her. Never happened, by the way. Totally made up story. She's a Clinton person, too, by the way. Big Clinton person. She made up the story. And so many years ago, and I think it would be 1979, one of my many people behind me could correct it, but I think she said 1979. It's a long time ago. And I sat down. I believe I had some pretty big success then, and I was being talked about a lot. Maybe The Art of the Deal was out, sometime after that. I'm not sure. But I was well known. And passengers are coming into the plane. And she said I was making out with her. And then, after 15 minutes, and then she changed her story a couple of times. Maybe it was quicker. That I grabbed her at a certain part, and that was when she had enough. Now, so think of how the impracticality of this. I'm famous. I'm in a plane. People are coming into the plane.
Gosh.
And I'm looking at a woman, and I grab her, and I start kissing her and making out with her. What are the chances of that happening? What are the chances? And
I'm sorry to do this
frankly,
to you,
I know you're going to
Francesca.
say it's a terrible
This is
thing
truly punitive.
to say, but it couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. And she would not have been the chosen one.
There we
She
go.
would not
I was
have
waiting
been
for
the
it.
chosen one.
I was waiting for it.
She has gone around for years saying the story. Everywhere I go, she says this story. And it's a total lie. Now, I assume she'll sue me now for defamation like I got sued by E. Jean Carroll.
And he goes on, there are things that he says about other people, like they wouldn't be the one. You've heard him say this crap before, basically talking about how the women looked and they would not be the one. He wouldn't even look at them. And then, of course, in court when all of this was going on, his former wife or ex-wife, he thought that it was Tiffany's mom. What was her name again? I forget.
Marla Maples.
Marla Maples. He said they showed him a picture of E. Jean Carroll, and he thought it was Marla Maples. He goes, yeah, that would be Marla Maples. Now, he said that she wasn't attractive enough for him, right? So was he saying that Marla Maples is not attractive because he mistook her for Marla Maples? I mean, for Marla Maples, E. Jean Carroll for Marla Maples. Francesca, I don't really know what to say. He's vile. He's so vile. I think this is disqualifying, obviously, from running for any office in the land. But what did you make of that stunning display?
Well, I think that's a really good point because this sounds like Trump doing a victory lap, like he just won election. He won the election in November, and now he's going after his enemies, and he's talking about E. Jean Carroll again. He's talking about, this woman leads, and he's, rubbing in everyone's faces and reminding them and saying, ha, 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 I got away with it. But he's not. He's in the middle of a campaign where specifically he has to appeal to women and suburban women and all women. I mean, it doesn't matter what your political tendency is, Democrat, Republican, if you switched, if you're independent, whatever it is, most women have been in the situation of being accosted, if not outright assaulted. We know that obviously it's 1 in 3, I believe, American women who are survivors. This is a common experience. And so to so callously discuss this and say, number one, it never happened. But also, if it did, she wouldn't be my first choice, which he's got to do. He says this every single time because he has to slight the way these women who are accusing him has to slight the way they look. And as you pointed out, they look exactly like women he's married. So It's just wild to me. He truly is on some next level ish. Like he's just.
You can say shit. He's on some next level bullshit. How
He's
about
on
that?
some next
I
level
can say it
bullshit.
for
Like
you.
he's truly not trying to win this in November. Like I guess he got some bad polling, and he knows that Kamala Harris has outraised him 3-1, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna be petty now.
But don't you think his folks really? First of all, I mean, would he be your first choice? Think he's any of those women's first choice?
Right? Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, hey, Donald Trump. Woo, hottie patati.
I don't even think he was Melania or Marla or Ivana's first choice. And they eventually did choose him. It was probably like number, 7.5.
Wow. Nothing. Money says a lot.
It does. Of course it does. And there he is bragging about, Don, the fact that when you have money and when you are famous,
That's what he said.
You could just do whatever you
can
want.
do whatever you want. But don't you think the MAGA folks like that? They like his sort of, offensive nature, not sort of offensive nature, his offensive nature, his devil may care, I can say any bullshit and you will believe me attitude?
Absolutely. They do love that. They love the misogyny. They love doubling down on it. They love, again, piling on this rape myth around like, what were you wearing? Or you're not hot enough to be assaulted, and so on and so forth. And this is why you're seeing reports right now of Republican women who are thinking of voting for Kamala Harris, maybe thinking voting for a Democrat for the first time, who are trying to make sure their husbands don't find out about this. The Daily Beast reported this a couple weeks ago, that they're like, I don't want my husband to know that actually this toxic a-hole is just not my cup of like, I'm not doing it. I don't want it. I don't want the drama. I don't want the nastiness. And let's move on. I like the size.
I don't even know what to say. What is going on? Okay, I want to shift some gears now. Okay, can we shift? Can we?
Please.
Can we talk about? I wish we had sound effects. Russia, 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 as he says it. Russia, Russia, Russia. Let's talk about that. You ready?
Yes.
You've heard this story, haven't you?
Oh, have I?
Okay, so all of these characters, one of whom one of these guys changed his entire political belief system, like almost overnight. And money, 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 right? Changes in money. Okay, almost overnight. Okay, So here's what happened. I'm going to talk about the DOJ indictment here. Shift gears to Russia. A DOJ indictment filed on Wednesday alleges that a media company linked to 6 conservative influencers, including extremely well-known personalities Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Lauren Southern, and Benny Johnson, that entity was secretly funded by Russian state media employees to churn out English language videos that were, quote, very consistent with the Kremlin's, quote, interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to Russian interests, like its war in Ukraine. Now, in addition to that, to marking the 3rd straight presidential election in which U.S. authorities have unveiled politically charged details about Russia's attempted interference in U.S. politics, an indictment indicates just how Moscow may be attempting to capitalize on the skyrocketing popularity of right-wing podcasters, live streamers, YouTubers, other content creators who have found successful careers on social media in the years since Donald Trump has been in office, right? So the influencers say that they were unaware of the project's Russian connections. They say they didn't know. And they were getting a lot of money, right, to say they didn't know about whatever. On Thursday, Johnson, Poole, Rubin posted statements on X describing themselves as victims. Okay, I don't know about you, Francesca. I don't know about you. I do find it hard to believe that these guys didn't know something fishy was going on. They were being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, in some cases probably millions of dollars, to make anti-Ukraine videos. I mean, come on.
I mean, you don't get $100,000 to do a YouTube video unless
or $400,000 a month.
Or $400,000 a month. I mean, so I think it's important to just remember up top that right-wing influencers and content creators like the Daily Wire, like Breitbart, have actually received a whole lot of money from American billionaires, but specifically American billionaires like the Wilkes family, who's invested in fracking, or the Mercer family, who I believe also has a fracking wealth. These are ideologues. They are rich. Among many, many things, they are invested in keeping their taxes low as billionaires. And so the idea that already these right-wingers, like Ben Shapiro, or like the folks of Breitbart, say that they're independent is absolute horseshit, and we all know it. And so we know they've got billionaire backings, right? So I just want to put that out there. But this is a next level. This is a foreign government. This is a foreign agent. And if they think that they were victims, are they going to give that money back? Are they going to return it? Do they accept it? What do they think, right? And we know, push comes to shove, what they would probably say is, I was boosting a, Western chauvinist, libertarian ideology, and I stand by it. And just like I stand by Russia. My thing is, like, if you think you're a victim, either you give back the money or you say, you know what, actually, Russia and these Russian interests, they're not wrong. They're onto something. They're right. And we know there's an overlap. There's a cultural overlap. There's an ideological overlap. And there is a financial overlap between the MAGA movement and the government of Russia. We don't need to talk about the Mueller report. We don't need to talk about the amount of dark money that the NRA funneled into the Trump campaign in 2016 from who knows where. Definitely.
But Francesca, I think we do need to talk about the Mueller report, because if you actually read the Mueller report, it doesn't say that there was no Russian interference. Bill Barr just got to read the report first and then frame it in a way, right? Here's what I do know. If you, whatever it is that you are doing, and if something is going to happen publicly, you want to get the first crack at putting it out there. Because what that does is it shapes the narrative, because all the other, with the reporters the first story that goes out, that's what they do. They just sort of all repeat the same talking points, repeat the same story, and then the first narrative becomes true. And that is what Bill Barr did. But if you actually read the Mueller report, it's not quite what Bill Barr said. So I do think that we need to talk about the Mueller report. Let me just say this, because it was a lot of money, because we were saying hundreds of thousands of dollars. One contract, according to reports, was for $400,000 a month, according to an indictment. $8.7 million of the $9.7 million tenant received from the Russians went to the production companies of three commentators, Wired Reports said. They were not named in the indictment. One commentator had a contract for $400,000 a month for 4 weekly videos plus a $100,000 signing bonus.
Oh,
okay.
My God. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Listen, I know this isn't even in negotiations. When you're negotiation contracts, you throw everything in there, right? You throw everything at the wall and say, let's see if they'll go for this.
Sure.
And then, right? And then but they went for $400,000 a month. I just want to read something. I want to read something to you. And a quote, it's funny. It is that Akilah Hughes at Crooked Media tweeted yesterday, quote, "When you remember Tim Pool has an 8th grade education and Benny Johnson got fired from BuzzFeed for plagiarism, it is easy to see why Putin would see them as easy marks." So I don't know. Maybe they're truly so dumb that they didn't know that they were being used by Russians?
But I think I was going to bring up that tweet. Akilah Hughes, shout out to you, because this was really important to bring up. And if you watch any of Tim Pool's content or Benny Johnson's content, you understand it only makes you dumber. Tim Pool, all he does is skim headlines live on air. Then when he sees a fact that he doesn't like, he jumps over it and doesn't tell his audience. He just assumes things. He sees things. Biological differences between men and women show that women cannot hunt and gather and they should be in the home. Like, just whatever culture, war of the day it is, that's Tim Pool's content. It is the lowest of the low. So it does say something that Russia is like, look, these guys are useful idiots. That's what they are. We can throw them money and they'll do anything. And sure, one of the videos will be about Ukraine, and it doesn't have to be explicit. And I think, Don, this is what's important about a show like yours. What I try to do is that we are trying to actually educate Americans, educate our viewers to actually think critically, to follow the news, to have it maybe be a little lighthearted and whatnot. The reason we're not getting hand over fist Russian money is we are not here to sow division and hatred and suspicion. We're not here to draw cultural war battle lines. I mean, and they are. And Russia loves that. They've done it in many countries throughout Europe, to the point where countries like Sweden and Norway, I believe, and Finland, right? They've created misinformation campaigns that explicitly help viewers on YouTube identify what might be true and what might be false. Our government, sadly, does not take it nearly seriously enough. And every time they do, Biden tried to create a whole bureau that would investigate misinformation. The right loses their mind about freedom of speech. Well, that speech is bought and paid for by the Kremlin.
Whoa! Tell it. Say it louder for the people in the back. I think it's true, because it's so easy to sell out, right? It's so easy.
Sure.
Can you imagine this, Francesca? When I was on CNN before Trump, people were like, "Oh my God, he is a black conservative," and I'm like, "No, I'm just not. I don't. My politics are my own independent thing. I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I have some conservative leanings, right? I have some liberal leanings, and I'm just like a normal person who thinks on their own." Now imagine if I wanted to cash in. I could become a black conservative.
Of course.
And write conservative books. And go on conservative radio.
And throw the black community under the bus.
Oh my gosh, I mean hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes.
That I could make.
Candace Owens.
Yeah.
I know you've tussled, but that is the key. And I mean, honestly, kudos to you for this and for this show, and also for being able to, do honest reporting and commentary that doesn't feel like it's just trying to cash in the money cow, right? Because we all know that it would be exactly what you said, is just tripling down on your conservatism, whatever.
My subscribers were really unhappy with me when I was telling them the truth about what was happening with Joe Biden. And then, lo and behold, I was right, because he dropped out, and I said, there's this thing going on with the Democrats. They think that this and people were mad. What's wrong with you? Whose side are you on? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, I will, because they're also on the left. There are people out there, especially in this digital space, as you know, the YouTubers, the podcasters, or whatever, they will say whatever makes Democrats look good, right?
Sure.
Whatever they think their subscribers want to hear.
Right.
Just because they want more clicks, more subscribers, more whatever. It's great to have all of that, but I got to tell the truth. I'm doing this because I want an electorate to be informed, especially until the election. Now, after the election happens, then we'll see where the show goes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We'll see. It'll take a different turn, probably. Or we'll continue to talk about this.
But what do you think, Don? Do you think there's any way you see a contract like that and you're not asking questions, like you're not seeing red flags? It's a major red flag. If you're a content creator and you see a $400,000 a month contract, you gotta know that this is sus.
What happened? Did you know Dave Rubin? What happened to him?
Dude, I did not. I mean, thankfully, I did not. The cash cow of I used to be on the left, and then they alienated me, and they, said I couldn't say, whatever, some word that was offensive. And I couldn't, literally, this is the story of a lot of right-wingers, is I used to be on the left, then someone corrected me about their pronouns, and now I'm a Nazi. What are you doing?
What happened?
How can you be so fragile? You're supposed to be the party of alpha males, and you can't take someone criticizing. But yes,
snowflakes.
I mean, poor Dave is also he is a gay conservative who, especially in the last 4 years with the culture war BS, and now he's a father, is continually just on the outside looking in, because I do think there's been a massive 180 around the conservative movement and gay Americans. I think they're back to saying, nope, we want to restrict all rights.
I can understand someone being conservative. I don't understand being a log cabin Republican. Look, if you're just because you are gay or whatever, doesn't mean that because I know some trans people who are very conservative, right, about their politics, and it doesn't mean, but to be affiliated with a party now, and I'm talking about the MAGA Republican Party,
Yes.
who does not think that you should exist or that your marriage is that you should be able to get married. As Candace Owens said to me, you're a sinner, you're living in sin. I'm like, well, what about your interracial marriage? Because there are people who are saying, you're married to a white man. And they would say, listen, the whole thing about, and I write about it in my book, Bob Jones, this started back in the 80s or 90s when Bob Jones tried to outlaw interracial datings, Bob Jones University, on campus, right? Using, and a lot of these folks use the Bible or scripture to demonize people and to prove their point that they believe is their point, that something is wrong or sinful, like, you know, interracial dating, or that slavery is okay, or discrimination against women. They should not be able to vote, or women should be in the kitchen. The man is the head of the household. All of that stuff. They use that, right, in order to be either a misogynist, a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, an Islamophobe. Shall I go on?
Well, this is, I think, Clarence Thomas's long game, you know, because once they overturn the right to interracial marriage, he can finally be free of Ginny.
Yeah.
So...
folks, listen, I want you to get a real sense of just how anti-Ukraine and pro-Russian that these guys were. So this is just one example, and then we're going to move on. One example of Tim Pool talking about the war in Ukraine. Now, watch this, and I think sometimes he may have some notes here. Pay attention to this, Francesca. Tell me what you think. Here it is.
But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
I mean, we should apologize to Russia. Is he out of his gourd? He's crazy. But there's more I want to talk about before I let you weigh in on this. It's so obvious, and it looks like he was reading notes. I don't know if he was, but it looks like he was reading notes, and I don't know if it was a script, but it was bizarre. And I'm sorry, not only is, you know, that utterly just outrageous, right, deranged, it's so nakedly Russian propaganda. And I also want to highlight the absolute nerve of Tim Pool. I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with the Majority Report, Sam Cedar's program?
Yeah, they're okay. No, I'm kidding. I go on there frequently. Don, you haven't seen me?
Yeah, I have. That's where I've seen. How familiar? Do you watch it? Just because you go on doesn't mean that you watch it all the time. I watch it almost every day.
I do watch it.
Okay.
Yes, I do, sadly.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan. Sam Cedar has been on the program, but his co-host Emma Vigeland went on Tim Pool's program to debate a year ago. And it was, one point that they touched on funding. Now, this would have been right after Tim Pool agreed to collect hundreds of thousands of dollars to allegedly spread propaganda. And this is what he said. Watch.
Of what we do is we try to respond to some of the right-wing ecosystem on the internet because there's a vacuum truly left. You guys have a lot more money than the left-wing media space. We just try to combat it a little bit.
I think the issue with that, I can understand why you'd say that, but it looks like this is a great way to kick off the show, actually, like the start of the culture war. I actually don't think that whatever this space has more money because this is a fractured independent space of varying ideologies.
Tim, I'm in your compound right now.
Yeah, I'm rich. And Sam's had way more subscribers than me for a long, long time.
Right.
And he just like hit. And I'm not saying this to be like mean. I'm saying if he doesn't know how to turn revenue, the issue is more so you need like a COO or somebody who's going to say, here's how we provide something to a market that generates revenue so we can expand our business. So we're better at that here, I suppose, is the easiest way to put it.
Well, no, because what you say here is more attractive to investors and advertisers. I mean, we're basically only members.
Boom.
Okay.
Boom. And I know that because I'm in this game. The conservatives get all the money. all of the most of the media owners and the people who have interest in they are conservatives. So they will give funding and sponsorship and big contracts to conservative podcasters and YouTubers and digital streamers or what have you, but it doesn't happen on the left.
No, it doesn't. And
it doesn't.
The one person who does maybe sponsor not a lot of media, but is George Soros, and they hate George Soros because he's the one billionaire who like donates to cool things.
But the nerve of him, the nerve of Tim Pool. I mean, come on.
No, but it's wild. Can I jump in? I'm going to jump in because it is wild to me that he said what he said about Ukraine. And if, I don't like saying everything is Russia. I don't like, blaming the 2016 Clinton loss on Russia. It is not. It was not. It was potentially part of it. But we have to not be stupid. We have to connect the dots here. The only part of the 2016 Republican platform that was changed under Donald Trump, president-elect, was the part about should Russia invade Ukraine, Republicans say the United States will not intervene to support Ukraine. That was it. Why? Why? And how funny that then two of his advisors had to register as foreign agents. Paul Manafort specifically was someone who was back channeling with Russia, as per the Mueller report. And the reason, by the way, as an aside, the reason that Donald Trump wasn't charged or actually criminally charged for the Mueller report is because Robert Mueller is a lifelong Republican. That is it. He found what he found, but he didn't think that it was cause to actually indict a sitting president. Put that aside. But it is very crazy, Don, that the entire Republican right, the MAGA right, I mean, it doesn't seem like Lindsey Graham is on this the gravy train. He's on some other shit. But the entire right is saying we need to stop supporting Ukrainian sovereignty. We need to stop supporting them against Russian aggression. They're totally fine with supporting, more money to Israel anytime, anywhere, whatever. But no more money to Ukraine. Why? Why? I think we have only scratched the surface of where the money has been coming from. I mean, how many characters do we need to find out about? And now we've got these two, they're at large, by the way, the two characters who helped fund Tenet that then funded Johnson and Tim Pool and Rubin and such. So it's just you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but when the conspiracy is hitting you in the freaking face, you kind of have to pay attention.
Did you see during the press conference, there was a response from Russian television, and their response to Merrick Garland was, ha, 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 ha. And, Merrick Garland had something witty to say about that. But let's move on, okay? I think we've exhausted this for now. We'll see what's going to happen. I don't think this is over yet. I really don't think it's over yet. Yeah, and obviously it's not because there's been an indictment or whatever, but I think that there's more to come with this story and with these right-wing media figures or, media streaming bros. Okay.
Well, you just need a good CFO, though. You just need
a COO. You don't have a good COO.
Yeah, you don't have a good COO.
You need a good COO, but you have to pay a COO. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And where's that money going to come from? Okay, so let's talk. I feel the need to shift to some breaking news right now. Dun, dun, dun. This is actually interesting because Dick Cheney has gone woke, right? Dick Cheney has dyed his hair blue. He's wearing a pussy hat. He's eating avocado toast right now. That is right. The former Vice President Dick Cheney will cast his ballot for Vice President Kamala Harris. His daughter, who is a former rep, Liz Cheney, said during an interview on Friday. So let's watch that moment. Here it is.
Dick Cheney, your father, a beloved figure among Democrats for many, many years. Do you, if you know who he will be supporting or who he'll be voting for, do you care to share with us who he might be voting for?
Dick Cheney will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Wow. Words I never expected to hear.
Yeah. If you think about the moment that we're in, and you think about how serious this moment is, My dad believes, and he's said publicly, that there's never been an individual in our country who is as grave a threat to our democracy as Donald Trump is. And that's the moment that we're facing. And so I think recognizing that, and let me also say, obviously Vice President Harris and I have had and have policy disagreements on some issues, but I have been really impressed watching, for example, the Democratic Convention, listening to her speech at that convention, learning about her life story, learning about, the story of her success and the extent to which it's an American story. And I think we all have to walk ourselves back from this abyss that we've looked over in our politics and work together to build a better future for this country.
Okay. I mean, Francesca, that is Liz. Child, I mean, but
I can't.
Liz
you
Cheney
what do you
is the
think?
most conservative of the conservative. And now I do remember that she had, she did a 180. She had a change of heart as it relates to some gay issues because her sister came out, right? Remember that? Mm-hmm. But Liz Cheney is so conservative. She was sort of the blueprint of what, conservatives wanted to be and aspired to be. And her father was the most conservative. They called him Darth Vader. He was so cold, they believed, and so far right. And now you have Liz Cheney. I never thought I would see the day coming out and saying, I watched the Democratic Convention and I was heartened by this and her story, and what the fuck is going on?
I don't know. I think the question also is, Liz Cheney will swear that, she's changed. I just want to know, who's changed? Have you changed or have other people changed? But I guess the real thing is, I
think the Republican Party has changed. I think the
Right.
Republican Party has gone past. They
Right.
jumped the shark, but sorry.
But
go
I
on.
would contend that it is the likes of Dick Cheney and all of the Bush lackeys that brought us to Donald Trump. They are the ones who mired us in 2+ wars, $3 trillion worth of debt that it accrued. And then, the idea of militarism around the world and, undermining American investment, the idea of just getting rich as Dick Cheney did off of Iraq vis-a-vis Halliburton. He is the one who set this up. These are the people who also were very excited when the astroturfed Tea Party movement against Obama took off.
I was going to mention the Tea Party, but Francesca, so the thing is, I'm making sure that I'm speaking to you. The thing is that even that seems, everything that you meant in the Halliburton of it all, the weapons of mass destruction of it all, the shooting, you remember shooting his hunting partner, that seems quaint compared to MAGA.
Yeah, I would say that to Iraq and Afghanistan, it is not quaint. The millions of dead Iraqis, not quaint to them. So there is that. Donald Trump, although he says he's an isolationist and he didn't start any new wars, he expanded drone strikes by 400%, people. So that is true. They love militarism. But who planted the seeds of Islamophobia? Who planted the seeds of America First? Who planted all those seeds and then watered them? That was Dick Cheney. This is his rot. Obviously, if you really want to go back, it's Ronald Reagan. But
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is just a piece together. He's the exhumed body of Ronald Reagan, brought to life by lightning in the dead of night on Halloween. He is just he's a
It's like Beetlejuice.
He really is.
But let me just say this. I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with much of what you're saying. But being purely transactional, of what this might mean to the election and for the Democrats, right? The Senate, Congress, the White House, right?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Not that you've forgiven or forgotten. You don't want. No one wants to memory hole what happened with George Bush and Dick Cheney and Ronald Reagan, as you said, and the Bush before that. But what this means transactionally, that this state, you don't think it'll start a sea change, maybe get the ball rolling with other Republicans? Because I know this is what I thought when I heard that. I'm like, okay, George Bush, where you at, George Bush?
Oh, yeah. George, I thought they all came around and voted for Biden in the end. I mean, what's funny about Dick Cheney having a change of heart is that he literally doesn't have a heart. He quite literally does not have a heart, people. Dick Cheney's heart has tried to quit on him so many times for all the crimes that dude has done that he now just has it's like some newfangled box, that powers his disgusting satanic capabilities. I'm just kidding. No, but look, I hear what you're saying, Don. I think the question is not for us, not for maybe people who consider themselves Democrat, left of Democrat, progressive, whatnot. It's for Republicans. It's when are you all going to wake up and who's going to lead that? And that's back to sort of where we started this. I do think women in conservative movement in the Republican Party need to start leading a little bit more and kick this misogynist out as their leader. But the difference is George W. Bush wasn't a cult. It was definitely, in my opinion, a coup. It was definitely like some sort of junta, and they were authoritarian in their own way. But they are not a cult. They were still responsible to reality. Donald Trump and the MAGA movement are not responsible to reality. And so, yeah, we're all waiting for them to wake up. I mean, Don, here's a question. If Trump loses in November, what does that do to the Republican Party? Do they run him again? I keep on telling every time I'm on with a conservative, I'm like, are you going to run him again? Again. I mean, they found a Trojan horse in Donald Trump. And they got their tax breaks in. They got everything they wanted. And then he became the Frankenstein monster that was a little bit too powerful for them.
Look, I got to tell you, though, and I do want to note that this is not the first time that Dick Cheney has spoken out against. But hang on before you get. Thank you. I want to thank Kimberly Barris for supporting independent media because, we stay on the air. We don't have Russian money, influence contracts, or any of that. So we stay on the air from your generous support. So thank you, Kimberly Barris, for your very generous support for supporting independent media. And thank you guys for hitting the thumbs up, hitting the notification button, subscribing, and watching every day. I appreciate it. So but I have to note, Francesca, this is not the first time that Dick Cheney has spoken out against Trump. This was a video. This was back in 2020. Here it is.
In this 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it. Lynn and I are so proud of Liz for standing up for the truth, doing what's right, honoring her oath to the Constitution, when so many in our party are too scared to do so. Liz is fearless. She never backs down from a fight. There is nothing more important she will ever do than lead the effort to make sure Donald Trump is never again near the Oval Office. And she will succeed. I am Dick Cheney. I proudly voted for my daughter. I hope you will too.
I'm Liz Cheney, and I approve this message.
Now we know why. We know why she lost for real, though.
But no, listen. Did you see? We both had the same reaction. That's why I couldn't stop laughing.
Like, you can't look directly into that man's eyes without feeling like he's stealing a part of your soul. That is very scary.
He is quite handsome, don't you think? I think he's a handsome man.
Yeah. What's the lip curl?
But look, I have to say that I have mixed feelings about Dick Cheney. But I don't have mixed feelings about an ad like that. It's okay to have mixed feelings. It's okay to say you did some bad shit, but on this one thing, you did the right thing, right? It doesn't make up for all the other bad shit that you did, but you're doing the right thing on this. So listen, broadcast that into the Republican living room, I think. All the Republican living rooms in Pennsylvania and everywhere. I think all the battleground states, right? Don't you think?
I mean, I don't. I mean, sure. If you definitely want to like put a pox on their houses, you should stream Dick Cheney into everyone's living room. That is quite. But here's the thing, Don. This is the problem. This is the Dick Cheney and his failures to actually address the American people's concerns, to help build the middle class. Instead, send all of our taxpayer dollars again to plunder other countries. That is the reason you got a Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the only candidate, and this is the only thing he had going for him, who was like, I think the Iraq war was wrong. Also, we should have taken all the oil. It's not because he's got a good heart. It's because he's got an even more sick and twisted one, but he was actually against the invasion. And so that stood him apart. It also stood Barack Obama apart. So we cannot forget that it was the way that the old guard behaved that led us to this Donald Trumpian moment. And so I don't think that the clout of any Cheney or Bush or Rumsfeld is he I know Ashcroft has kicked the bucket, but I believe Rumsfeld as well. He's being waterboarded in hell. I'm just kidding. These are people who Republicans nowadays, the MAGA movement, they don't want anything to do with. They don't like them because those are elitist insiders who indebted our country. They sent our children to war. So they're right about that. I don't think that the Cheneys of this country appeal to anyone. They don't appeal to Democrats. They don't appeal to Republicans, and that's their own doing. That's just where I'm at on this.
Look, I want to know where George Bush is. Where are you, George Bush?
He's painting.
George
He's painting
Bush.
all the fluffy clouds.
Let me do this. Calling George Bush. George Bush, where are you? Taylor Swift. Where are you, Taylor Swift? Where are you? That's what I would like to know. Maybe this bat will take me back to the future and I can go this microphone.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Maybe I could change some things. I was mindlessly sweeping through, just swiping through some of the Twitter today, and I came across this video. This is Joe Biden and Dick Cheney. This is from 2008, and you know what? At the time, I'm sure they didn't agree with Biden and anything that he said, but I'm inclined to agree with it now. Watch.
I consider it a privilege, Dick, to know you, to have known you, have watched you work. I just wish the hell I could have changed your mind on a half a dozen things. But all kidding aside, you have been a great asset to this country, and the way you have personally conducted yourself is a model for anyone in high public office in this country. Thank you all very much.
Okay, now that I hear it, I think I agree with the sent that he's a better person than me. That's what I should have said. I shouldn't have said that I agree with him. I think he's a better person than me because he didn't get up there and slam Dick Cheney. I probably would not have said what he said. So I take that back. I don't agree with that. I don't know what I was thinking when I looked at that.
But I mean that I think is like I understand what the impetus is. Can't we? Respect the other side. Can't we all just get along? Can we respect the other side, right? And I do think that, it is largely the Republicans. I mean, look, the rat effing that happened around the Clintons, around Hillary Clinton, then around Barack Obama, to say nothing of Citizens United and the way that dark money was able to fund right wingers and left wingers, but just funnel into our election system. That was all paved by the right-wing movement in this country. Mm-hmm. And so this is why I'm so glad that Joe Biden is no longer running, because his ideologies, his bipartisanship, his let's reach across the aisle and hold hands, that is of yesteryear, right? And not saying that we need to, be ferocious and we never work together. No, we work together to get things done. But I'm saying the American people don't want that. They do want action. They do want bold ideas. They do want a fighter.
Okay, listen, just a pushback on that. Because Joe Biden has gotten more accomplished than any presidency in modern history, if you actually look at his record. and look at where the economy. I mean, like I said, I think I love Joe Biden.
But without Republicans, Don, without Republicans, the way he got it done was because grassroots organizers in Georgia called and knocked doors.
Okay.
And they went to the wall for him and won him that state. That's why. It's because he's got the slim majority in the Senate. It's not because of Republicans. They didn't vote for a single piece of his legislation.
But I do think that there's something about him that look, I think wisdom is very valuable. And I think he knows his way around the Senate. He knows his way around Congress. He knows his way around Washington. I was very frustrated by his sort of kumbaya, let's all just get along, both sides of the aisle. Barack Obama was a lot like that too. And I would say, why are you trying to work with them? They hate you. They don't want to work with you. I don't understand it. But I do have to say that Joe Biden has gotten a lot done even with all of that. And the reason I love the man is not because of his politics. I just remember when I had a death in my family and my sister died, the man called me up on the phone and spoke to me for 45 minutes. I was like, okay, I got to go, Mr. Vice President. I did not really, but and so he knows empathy, and he gave me some great advice, and I cried on the phone, and he told me about, loss and all of that. So I really like him. Now, here's the weird thing that people are not going to understand. Just because I said that, it didn't mean that I was going to report on him any differently. I criticized him. The White House would get mad at me. They wouldn't want to talk to me. Oh, my God, it's Don Lemon. Oh, gosh. Karine Jean-Pierre, who I know is a friend as well, she would get upset with me. But when your job is to be a journalist, you got to do it. You know, understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
I think that's a really important distinction, that like as a person you like him, but not necessarily as a politician.
Yeah. So Francesca, where are all the other so-called patriotic Republicans? Why aren't they speaking out like the Cheneys? Where is George Bush? Where's Condoleezza Rice? Where's Mitt Romney right now?
I mean, they're chilling.
Where's Patrick Mahomes right now?
They are. Well, that's a great question. I mean, they're chilling. They're on their ranch, avoiding war crimes charges for their actions. And like I said, they're toxic to the Republican brand as well. Republicans know that they don't actually bring any real voters. Democrats don't like them. Republicans don't like them. I think the proof of that also is, look at Liz Cheney losing her election. Look at Adam Kinzinger losing his election, all because they had the audacity to say with their mouth what they saw with their eyes. And if you're a Republican today, that is never forgive action, to actually speak the truth of the reality that you see, like an attempted coup, a being unfit for office, as Donald Trump is. Now, I think there could be hope for a future Republican Party. But the other thing I think we need to remember, Don, is that Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump. What was it, like 98% of the time?
That was my point.
So
that's my point about her. And if you did that, and now you're saying you got to know this isn't just sour grapes, because I do believe that she has a core. She does have core political beliefs, unlike Donald Trump, right?
And she's got cojones. I mean, she really has. She has some gumption to be able to go against the entire party like that and say, no, I'm not going to join the cult. I disagree with her pretty much on everything, but the fact that she decided not to join the cult, I think it's huge.
Yeah. Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, set to face off against Donald Trump on Tuesday. The debate is a chance for a Democratic presidential nominee to define herself and reshape the political terrain for the rest of the campaign. But it could also be a risky evening for the VP. So Francesca, one thing that's interesting here? This debate will be the first time that Harris and Trump will meet face to face. I mean, that really struck me as odd when I first heard it. But I reported on this during the interview, when she did the interview with Dana Bash over on CNN. When I first heard it, but then I realized, that's because Trump launched a coup against the government, and for the first time since the Civil War, he refused to engage in the peaceful transition of power, okay? So I realized that, and I reported it then. But then the same idea came from my friend over at the Bulwark, and that is Tim Miller. He made that point on Piers Morgan last night, and I texted Tim today, and I'm like, Tim, bravo, here it is, watch, delicious.
Do you know why Trump and Kamala Harris have never met, Pierce? Have you thought about it for a second? Do you know why they really haven't met?
Tell me.
Because he was a toddler and he threw a temper tantrum after he lost a fair election. And for the first time in America since the Civil War, we did not have a peaceful transfer of power. We did not have a ceremonial transfer of power where the former president, like a man, goes and stands on the stage and greets the next incoming president, where he helps the incoming team with the transition, where the vice president's team meets with the other. That didn't happen last time because Donald Trump attempted a coup and he had a temper tantrum and he flew home to Mar-a-Lago just to go golfing and to hang out with the Cougars on the pool deck.
To be clear, all of which
That's what happened. That's why they haven't met, because he tried a coup.
Well, to be clear, at the time I heavily criticised him for all the things you've just said. But that doesn't explain why...
Okay, sure, but Corey Lewandowski comes on your show and he's like, oh, Donald Trump and Kamala haven't met.
Well, hang on.
Oh, my goodness.
No,
wow, that's so interesting. They haven't met. And then Corey's over there saying it's because Kamala was ineffective as a senator. It's because Donald Trump was supposed to be a deal maker, didn't meet with any of the Democratic senators. He said he was going to be the art of the deal man, but he didn't try to actually do any deals. All he did was insult people on Twitter. And then after he lost to Kamala Harris, fair and square, and Joe Biden, he didn't have the dignity to have a transfer of power for the first time in American history.
Hercules, Hercules. So good. And so, listen, he is so right. But then there was a point in the conversation when he was talking about Corey Lewandowski, and he said, the interview that you had with me is very contentious, but you were very chummy with Corey Lewandowski.
Exactly.
Right. And, he said, because I understand you're trying to get, Donald Trump on your show. And I'm like, Tim, oh my gosh, because that happens so much. And it is the same reason that Piers Morgan, who I know, that he kisses up to Elon Musk so much because he wants him on the show.
Yes, he does. Because why?
Right? And so
he wants the clicks.
He wants the clicks. He's so transactional. Piers, I sent him a note saying, Piers, I was watching your coverage, and there's usually something, some truth, some nugget that I could find out that I could agree with, and I think that you're right. But I think lately everything it's wrong. The Republicans what MAGA is selling, no one is buying. And you, of all people, I thought could see that, but apparently not, because he wants to do an interview with Elon Musk. So he cozies up to the bros, and he wants to do an interview with Donald Trump, and he cozies up to Corey Lewandowski. Clicks, clicks, clicks. Get people on the air fighting.
Yep.
And that's what. And I'm so glad that Tim called him out on that.
Well, I called him out too because I've been on his show multiple times, way too often. And I called him out because Don, I've been on maybe 6 or 7 times, and without fail, Piers Morgan will consistently remind everyone that he won Celebrity Apprentice and that Donald Trump personally called him a few days ago. And then every time there's like a Trump like the Coreys or the Caroline Leavitt comes on, he goes, tell your boss to come on my show. And it's just so thirsty. It's so embarrassing.
It's so transparent, though. And I tried for the longest not to call him out, not to say anything, but it is just so obvious. Piers, stop it. Like, what are you doing, man? And then he kisses up to the MAGA people on the show. He doesn't call them out. He doesn't fact check them. And then he'll say, and at the time, I called out Donald Trump and said he was wrong. But then everything you did after that was you making excuses for the things that he's done. If you called him out, if you think he's a threat to democracy, if he would not, if he would not do a peaceful transition of power, then why are you making excuses for him? Do you think that he's going to be better? If he incited January 6th, do you think he's all of a sudden a good person? Now, what are you doing?
But Piers Morgan has, Andrew Tate, who is an accused sex trafficker on his show regularly for like a whole hour. But let's put that aside. Tim's point was brilliant, and it's important to remember. You could have met with Kamala Harris at this point, but you didn't because you were a baby, and that's what happens is actually, and let's be real, like, I don't even know if Trump's going to show up on Tuesday. I think he will. I think it'll be very interesting. And if I were Kamala Harris, I was thinking about this because this is what happens late at night for us when we're just like thinking about, so my pundit brain was like, man, if I was in a room with Donald Trump for the first time ever, how to practice for that? Because you've been in a room with Trump as well. But for me, I've been filled with a lot of rage when you see someone who you truly cannot stand and they are disgusting to you. I think an impersonator. I think that Harris needs to get a Trump impersonator to help her get over like the Trump heebie-jeebies. You know, the first like, huh, like the one where you're like, huh, you know,
like,
and you
like
just
both of you and I reacted when Dick Cheney came on.
exactly. You need someone to like. Because I do think he can be imposing and a little scary, but if there's one thing that Harris knows how to do, it's to debate and to put people in their place. And we saw her with Kavanaugh. We saw her with Mike Pence. I mean, honestly, I'm sad that she's not debating J.D. Vance and Donald Trump at the same time.
Francesca, I'm speaking. Okay? I'm speaking.
That's all. That's all she's got to say. But this is truly like the fate rolled the dice, and Trump's now going against his worst enemy, which is a black female prosecutor. Like, yeah. I am no fan of all. Like, I'm not a fan of all prosecutors. Blah blah blah. But it's truly Trump's kryptonite. He can't stand them. Letitia James, Tanya Chutkin, like, name them. That's his. That's who's hiding under his bed.
It's the black women.
It's the black prosecutor.
Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Hold on one second. I want to make sure, producers, if you can get me the Nikki, please, the Kamala Harris soundbite that we ran this morning on the morning show. I'd really appreciate it. Of her in the kitchen. I think it was really funny. We'll end on that. But listen. You mentioned what is it? Who's it? The Tate guy that you mentioned was
Andrew.
I didn't know. I didn't really know about him. Someone asked me about him on a podcast, and I was like vaguely familiar. And he said something. But they called him Tate, and I'm like, who's Tate? Because it was just like one name, like he's a supermodel. But then now I've noticed that him, but I think mostly his brother, they are obsessed with me. He tweets about me, and so I don't think about them from one day, 1 second, 1 hour, 1 year to the next. And I'm like, what's going on with you guys? Like, I'm married. Like, leave me alone. I'm not interested. I don't want to go out with you. I'm not interested in you. I'm not interested in engaging with your bullshit. I'm not interested in any of it.
Don't rope me into some weird sex crime that I don't know is a thing.
It's weird and it's weird. You're weird and creepy. Why are you obsessed with me?
That's really funny. They want to be on the show, Don. They're like,
no, I think
let me plead my case.
I'm just saying. Anyway, I know it when I see it. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay. So Francesca, how do you think Harris wins? Do you think that how does she win the debate, and conversely, how could she lose it? One, you said, do you really think she needs to get like a Trump impersonator like Barack Obama had his? You remember he had his sort of bro translator with Keegan?
Oh yeah.
The angry Obama bro translator, black translator.
I mean, look, I think she is going to. There's no way she can lose. I mean, this is the thing that made the Biden debate so painful, Don, was that there was no way you can lose to Donald Trump. You just pick one thing that he's done, pick one hypocrisy, pick one failed promise or policy. You know, be it COVID, be it healthcare, be it one of the 34 criminal indictments, like whatever it is, pick one. You've got a felon in front of you. Like, there's no way you can lose. And that is why, you know, Biden fumbling so hard was so demoralizing, and rightfully it's what put him out. So I do think that Kamala Harris needs to hit him very hard on his stance on abortion and reproductive rights. I obviously think that she should talk about no one being above the law and all of the indictments that he's been facing. I think she needs to have a strong answer on immigration, which sad for those of us who want a more progressive policy that is more humane. There's not a lot of daylight between the two of them on that issue, but she's going to call him out on tanking the border bill. So I think that's important.
I think that she needs to, I think she can mention all those things. I think the pundits at the end they'll all talk about that. But here's what, she needs to go, I always say with a bully, you got to punch him in the nose. Yeah. Quite frankly, in the beginning, let me just say this in my opening statement. I cannot believe that I even have to stand here on the stage with you. If these debate rules weren't agreed upon before I was in the race, I would never have agreed to be here because I don't want to be on the stage and even in the same room with a convicted felon and a criminal. But I'm used to being in, I'm used to doing it. So I'm going to treat you the same way that I treat people, treat felons in the courtroom. And I'm going to go through this and I'm going to tell you who you are. And you're not going to run over me and you're not going to steamroll me. And I'm going to talk about policy, but I'm also going to talk about who you are because I know who you are. I have dealt with people and criminals like you for my entire career. You don't scare me, Donald Trump. I don't like being in the same room with you because of what you represent, but I'm not afraid of you. And so let's get this debate going. Let's go. Come on, moderators.
I love that. That was
Boom!
great.
You know what I'm saying? And then and then just keep and just ignore him.
That's really important, Don, what you just said, because do you remember how the first debate started, which was just like, sorry for the analogy, just no lube, just boom, let's go. It was like first question. And I did think there needed to be a moment to point out who your opponent is and why he is even running. This is a man who's been twice impeached, who sicked a mob on the Capitol building, who denied election results up until this very day.
She needs to say that. She needs to say that. And then she needs to say, and you said because Hillary Clinton would be in jail, but you're actually convicted, so you're the one who should be in jail.
Right. I mean,
and not standing here on this stage or running for president.
And just naming that you actually also represent a lot of Americans, you know, who don't think that he is worthy of the office. But again, look, I was on my show recently, the Bituation Room podcast, everyone should listen to it, talking about Brazil and the way President Lula da Silva and, and former President Jair Bolsonaro, if you don't know, Bolsonaro is prohibited from re-running for president for the next 8 years because of the exact same anti-democratic shenanigans that Donald Trump pulled, which is sicking a mob on the Capitol, denying election results, and spreading misinformation. Well, in that country, in the global South that we all don't assume has a very strong democracy, they're barring him from running for re-election. We allow Donald Trump. We don't even have laws on the books that say a convicted felon, a criminal, or someone who is currently in jail can't also be president because somehow in our minds, the founding fathers were like, well, anyone who would run or be president would be of such upstanding, whatever status that this would never happen. Yeah. Well, God damn it, we need some actual bumpers on this democracy. We need some protections. We need more of that Brazil energy. So do you know what I'm saying? Like the fact that he's even running is just like, if you truly think about it, it's freaking wild.
It galls me because, reporters, journalists are supposed to be objective, of course, but we're not supposed to be stupid, okay? And to think that you have someone who's running for president now who has been found guilty of all the things Donald Trump has been found guilty of, and all the evidence is there. So to this false equivalency that I see in the press is it just galls me. I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. Why are you saying that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the same sort of person? That it's the lesser of two evils. It's not the lesser of two evils. You may not like Joe Biden's politics. You may think that, he's too old or he's not sharp enough to run for president. But let me just tell you the difference between the two people. One of these people is the natural progression of where we're all going to go. One day, if we are fortunate enough to live to our 70s, 80s, or 90s, we will probably start forgetting things. We won't be as sharp and as quick and as fast as we once were. We won't be able to stand up maybe on a debate stage like we once did. But if you are a person of courage, if you believe in your fellow men, if you are just a good person, that always stays with you, right? But if you are someone who lies all the time, who has been convicted of multiple crimes, denies them, who tried to overturn an election, who would not see to a peaceful transition of power, if you are convicted of sexually assaulting a woman or women, if there's evidence that you cheated on your wife and then you tried to cover it up by paying hush money, all of these things, those two people are not the same. So why are you putting them on the same level? And why are you telling journalists, well, you can't do that. You need to be fair to this. You need to be fair to this. Of course you need to be fair. Being fair is pointing out the freaking obvious.
Absolutely.
That Donald Trump is a detriment to democracy. I would not have said that, a year and a half ago when I was in mainstream media. I wouldn't say that if I were in mainstream media. I couldn't because I would represent a company. But now I'm an independent journalist. I can say that. But I think that those people should be saying that. And they should be fighting against that. I'm delicious. I'm through. Do you remember that from Man on Film?
I don't, but I will say in response, I am glad you're now independent and that you can say this, and I think that's true. And I think it is. Trump has represented a crisis in journalism as well as a crisis in democracy. Is how do you cover someone like this, who is such a serial liar? And there's been fact checking, live fact checking. I'm sure it'll happen. I think we saw that with the documents case. Oh, Trump stole all these classified documents and refused to give them back and had plenty of warning. And then it's like, well, so did Biden. And then I turn on NPR and it's like, how are these two things actually equal? And you're like, they're not at all equal.
They're not.
Joe Biden was like, I did? Oh, well, go get them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. It shouldn't have been there, blah, blah. It's not the same.
It's not the same, but also thank God that Kamala is the candidate, and I am very excited for Tuesday.
Yeah, so I get it. Guys, I know. 2 snaps and a Z formation. I get it. I grew up with In Living Color. That was my reference when I said, delicious, I'm through. That's what that was.
Okay.
He says, I just have 3 words to say. Delicious. He was talking about like football players or something, men on football. And he's like, delicious. I'm through. Those are his 3 words. I love having you. And by the way, also, I forgot what I would say and I'd say you, and especially a person who questions my background and ethnicity and, who doesn't understand that people just don't come in one flavor. We come in all different shapes and sizes and backgrounds and ethnicities. And if anyone is questioning Kamala Harris's blackness or how cool or soulful she is, I want you to watch this because this will...
Oh, I know what this is. Wait, I think I know what this is.
Yes, yeah, go right in there.
Okay, let me see if I can figure this out.
I knew it had to do with food.
Definitely salt, cayenne, black pepper, garlic powder, onion powder.
You must be from New Orleans.
Well,
that was some black shit right there. Okay, so look, and here's the thing. Someone from conservative media will watch this and they'll be like, oh my gosh, On Lemon and Francesca, they're saying that she's black because she knew the ingredients and such and such and such and such. Oh, the race baiters. And it's like, can you have a little sense of humor?
Yes.
Ignoramuses.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all like.
That was a black moment, though, right? Don't you think?
It was.
That was your moment in blackness.
Yeah, the other moment you need to see her, explain how to brine a turkey properly. That is, I mean.
When she told her niece, you need to effing learn how to cook. You need to learn how to effing cook.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that we call like salt the flavor of white people. Like it's just like There's a reason for that. I love those moments. I love when she can't help like the things that she really is passionate about. And if cooking is one of them, that's very endearing. I just got to say.
I had so much fun with you this Friday. I actually had my little summer ale
Fantastic
in
Friday.
here.
I was wondering. I was like, you seem chipper than
It's
usual.
a little brown. I don't know if you can see. How do I do that?
Summer
I had a little
ale.
beer in my little summer ale.
Like a Sam Adams or
Celebrating. No, I think it was Montauk Summer Ale.
Oh, nice.
This is a Hampton Summer Ale. Montauk is not technically, I wouldn't call it the Hamptons, but it's on the East End. Okay. Thank you.
Don, what a pleasure.
Anything you wanna
Everybody,
say?
yeah, everybody check out the Bitchuation Room podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts or youtube.com/FrannyFio, FRANIFIO. Check me out.
Tell Sam and Emma I said hello. Tell Piers I said hello as well. And I don't know if they'll see this, but anyways. Hey, you're a good sport. Best of luck. Have a fantastic weekend, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Oh, then make sure you buy my book.
Ooh.
There we go. It's out.
You're so serious on the cover. You got to full screen this.
It's on, yeah, well, take her down and full screen it so she can see it if you can. So it comes out September 10th, which is, no, you don't.
That's debate day.
It comes out, yeah, it comes out on debate day. But just so you know, my book launch is on September 9th. It's here in New York City at the Stryker Center at Temple Emmanuel. And it is they are collabing, as we say now, are partnering with Strand Bookstore here in New York City.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I know. Very fancy, very fancy. And so that is 6:30 on Monday night. My old boss is going to moderate a conversation with me, Mr. Jeff Zucker. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh, I know. Yeah.
That'll be good. You're going to spill all the tea and be like,
I'm
and
gonna
then another thing, Jeff. Remember that time?
And another thing, let me tell you. Okay, thank you,
All right.
Francesca.
Thank you, Don.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye. Take it easy. Thank you guys for watching. And again, so, oh my God, it's getting close. I can't believe it's Friday and the book comes out on Tuesday. And my book launch is on Monday night. So if you want to come to, and also you can find it online. You can watch the book launch online from the Stryker Center, Temple Emmanuel, right here in New York City, in conjunction with the Strand Bookstore. And then I'll be in D.C., Washington, D.C. for Politics and Prose on Thursday of next week. And then on Friday, I will be in Wilmington, Delaware. And then I'll tell you where else I'm going to be. And we're going to add more tour dates for the book because a lot of you are asking. So make sure you pick it up, pre-order the book. And thank you. Make sure you watch our morning show. Go click on it. Will you guys please go click on the morning show, Hot Topics. It aired just this morning. And I'll see you. Have a fantastic weekend and be safe, okay? Bye-bye.